Welcome. Just say the truth. I'm your host, Ray Cruz. I'm sitting in for Freddie Henderson. I have Jonathan Mathis with us here. How you doing, Jonathan?
Hey, what's up, Ray? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. So we're gonna get right into this show here. We got some up to dates here. We got some key injuries here, some key series coming up here. So right now, let's take a look at the Philly and Atlanta. Right now, Philly's winning 62-40 in the game 5 of the best of 7 of this series. So what do you think is going to go on here, and how is this going to figure and play for the game 6 and 7?
Well, Philly came in, playing very strong, and they needed to come in playing very strong because to me this was a must-win for them. You didn't want to go down 3-2 going back to Atlanta. That would swing the momentum in Atlanta's favor. And, I think it would be more challenging for the Sixers to try to win a game in Atlanta. So tonight they had to take care of business on their home floor, and they're doing just that. Right now they look like the team that's hungrier, the team that's more grittier, and the team that wants it more. That's not to say Atlanta doesn't, but I think the Sixers are showing what they're capable of doing on any given night when they play, um, you know, a great game, and when they play collectively, and that's what you saw in the first half. At least that's what I saw. I've been watching bits and pieces of the game, not completely tuned in, but you never know. There's still a second half to be played. Atlanta could, you know, uh, come out with second half adjustments, and we all know who's coaching them. That's Nate McMillan, right? And Nate McMillan is a guy known for his adjustments. I'm pretty sure in the locker room he's going to preach the importance of playing defense and playing with more urgency and mental toughness. Having that mental toughness, taking on a team like the Sixers. Because the Sixers are playing in front of their home crowd, so of course they have more juice tonight. They have that adrenaline, and they have things working in their favor. So that's what I take away from the first half, is that the Sixers came out of the gate swinging, and they got things going early, and now the Hawks are going to have to come up with a strategy for the second half and try to hopefully get back in the game.
Yeah, and I'm going right through some of the box scores right now. Of what do you see? You see Trey Young with 14 points. He's shooting 3 for 8, 8 for 10 from the foul line. 19 minutes here. He's got 14 points. He has 1 assist, 1 rebound. And then if you look at the other superstar, Joel Embiid, he's already got 24 points. He's played also 19 minutes. He's 9 for 11 from field goal range, and 1 for 1 from 3-point, and 5 for 5 from the foul line. But he's already got 10 rebounds. He's got 8 defensive rebounds and 2 offensive rebounds. And he has also a 2 assists and 1 block in this ball game. So if you look at the last game, Joel Embiid, he didn't really have too many points. He wasn't the leading scorer. Tobias Harris was the leading scorer. Do you think if Embiid is the leading scorer for the next 2 games, do you think the 76ers will win it?
Oh, absolutely. He's the centerpiece of the Sixers. They need him to have a monster performance. And if he's able to dominate the paint and stop taking all these 3-point shots, because that's not his game. All these big 7-footers now, they want to take 3-point shots when they have the body and the physique to dominate underneath the basket. So if he gets more touches inside the paint, establish a post game, and if he's effective, inside the paint, it's going to be tough to beat the Sixers. But he's definitely the cornerstone piece to the Sixers team, and they're going to need his effort. They're going to need him to be superb night in and night out. And if he can do that, absolutely the Sixers have a chance to win. I think Ben Simmons is going to have to be a little more productive too on the offensive end. We all know what he could do defensively. We know how quick his hands is, that he has the ability to dislodge the basketball and create plays by forcing turnovers. We know what Ben Simmons can do as far as getting his teammates involved with his ability to pass the basketball because the dude has eyes in the back of his head. But he's going to have to step it up offensively. What we do know is that he has yet to establish a jump shot, that he doesn't really have the ability to shoot from outside. Not only that, he's not making his free throw shots. I mean, that's his kryptonite. Missing a lot of free throws, and that's hurting him. So if he, focuses more on making his free throws, and if he can also be that 1-2 punch to Joel Embiid, then I think the series can be over in the next 2 games.
Yeah, and you talking about his free throw. He's 2 for 8 in this game right now from the foul line.
Yes, atrocious.
He's got 5 assists and 3 rebounds right now.
Atrocious.
He has 1 turnover, but he's got 6 points in the first 2 quarters. Usually Ben Simmons don't come around until like the third or fourth quarter when the other team is starting to get tired, and then that's when he goes on an attack. So we'll keep this up to date on this game here. Now we talk about the next few games here coming up. We got the Clippers and the Utah Jazz. We also know Kawhi Leonard is questionable. They think he has a torn ACL. That was reported earlier today. So what do you think about Kawhi's injury for the Clippers? Is that going to yield? Is that going to give the advantage back to Utah?
Yes, it will give the advantage back to Utah. But the oddity of this injury has me, wondering when did this occur? Because we're just now learning about this injury, and we really had no idea about the injury right until this morning when the news broke. So it's a bit of a mystery of what's going on with Kawhi Leonard. When they really need him in what is a pivotal game tonight. But without him, this puts a lot of pressure on Paul George. Now, can Paul George live up to those expectations? I'm not sure if he can, Ray. I'm really not sure. I'm not really sold on Paul George because Paul George has shown time and time again that he's inconsistent, especially in big moments, right? That's when he tends to fold. That's when he disappears offensively. Well, if the Clippers ever needed Paul George, that is tonight. He's going to have to take over and execute offensively. He's going to have to lead that offensive attack tonight. If he doesn't, then the Clippers are going to lose, and they're going to lose this series. I mean, losing a player like Kawhi Leonard is deflating because, look, he's a two-way player, right? He does it on both ends of the floor. He could force turnovers with his quick hands. He could put a hand in your face and contest shots because he's an excellent defender, right? So they're gonna miss that, and then they're gonna miss his ability to score. To be effective, not only driving to the basket, but also making the outside jump shot. Because Kawhi Leonard, when he's on his game, and when he's shooting, and when he has the hot hand, he could be very unstoppable, right? So they're gonna miss his services tonight. They're already without Serge Ibaka. That was a huge loss. I think this is an advantage for the Utah Jazz to take control of this series and to pull it out in the end.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of stuff, injuries and stuff like that. Now when we got Kawhi Leonard, the Utah Jazz game plan has got to change a little bit. And sometimes when your game plan changes, sometimes, you don't know the unknown because you're always planning for Kawhi Leonard to be there all 7-game series. So does the Utah Jazz strategy change a little bit? Will that affect them in this pivotal game 5? But we're also playing in Utah too. So, will Utah come out and jump all over the Clippers?
I think they can. I think they know that the Clippers are a man down, and they can take advantage now. Who's going to really defend Donovan Mitchell? Kawhi Leonard has been the Mitchell stopper, we can say. I mean, that's fair to say that, but now in the absence of Kawhi Leonard, who's going to be able to contain Donovan Mitchell? Who's going to be able to slow him down tonight? I mean, that remains to be seen. I think Mitchell has a monster performance tonight. I think he realizes how important this game is and that they really need to get a victory tonight. And I think this opens the door for Utah. I mean, you never like to see a player get injured, but hey, if a player goes down, especially the key star on the team, you take advantage of that opportunity. That's part of the game. Injuries are going to happen no matter what. So this is one for Utah to win. And I think Donovan Mitchell will go off and will have an offensive explosion tonight in front of those loud fans in Utah.
Yeah, and we also know that Utah is without Conley too. So in this game, also he's been without him basically the whole entire series. So we know Conley is so effective in the point guard for him and stuff like that. But if Bogdanovich and Ingle comes out and has a great game, and with Donovan Mitchell, then you got your three right there. But who will have to step up to help Paul George? If we're looking at Morrison here, he's going to probably need another wing guy with him to carry him, or we're going to see the old Paul, the pace when he played for the Pacers. Will we see the old George back then?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we will see that Paul George. He has proven otherwise. He has not shown that he's capable of leading the offense on his own. That he needs a sidekick. That he needs a strong supporting cast to help him get it done. So yes, guys like Reggie Jackson, who has had the hot hand and who has been just ridiculous shooting a basketball. I think he's going to have to be huge tonight. You're going to have to get a lot from out of Morris. Yes, I think he's going to have a productive night. You're going to have other guys to step it up, but who's going to be that sidekick? Who's going to take on that significant role tonight and help Paul George? And maybe this might motivate Paul George to play harder. I mean, who really knows? Maybe PG-13 will have an unforgivable night, kind of like the one Kevin Durant had last night. Now, I'm not comparing him to Kevin Durant. I'm not saying he's Kevin Durant because he's not nearly on that level. He's not nearly on the same level as Kevin Durant. So we can close the book right now and end that argument. But Paul George is going to have a virtual performance. He's going to have to really, really step it up and turn up his game a notch, if the Clippers are going to have a chance to, come out on top in Utah in, the friendly confines there. I know they say that in Chicago where the Cubs play, but I'm going to say it with, Utah. So.
Yeah, and I seeing the matchup predicted for this matchup here tonight. 65.1% is in favor of Utah, and 34.9% is in favor of the Clippers. So, I mean, now we know the numbers of disparity. Do you think that's kind of perspective that you see in these numbers of 65% of people think Utah is going to win, and you only give them 34.9? You think that numbers are in disparity? You think Utah should be favored a little bit more?
In disparity, I think Utah, yes, should be favored a little bit more. Because, again, the Clippers are shorthanded now. They don't have their main guy, which is Kawhi Leonard. So, yes, that right there makes the Utah Jazz favorites. And then people forget that Utah has a scorer, a guy that can really score, and that's Donovan Mitchell. I mean, this guy is a superstar. We talk about how good he is. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say he's the greatest player in franchise history. I think that's a little overboard right now. It's too early to tell. That's been premature. I'm not going to be like Stephen A. Smith and say the guy is the best player in franchise history, because that's just disrespectful to Karl Malone and John Stockton. But I will say this, in today's game, and currently for the Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell is the best player in that franchise today. And there's no questions about it. And I think he's gonna have a big night tonight. He knows his team needs this victory. He knows they're in desperate need of a victory, and I don't think he wants to see his team fall 3-2. Is that what it is? 3 games? It would be 3-2, right?
3-2. It's tied up at 2-2.
It's tied up 2-2. So yeah, that you don't want to go down 3-2. Going back to LA, you want to win on your home floor, and they have that opportunity to do so.
All right, so we're moving right along. Let's go back to last night's game before we get into the Phoenix Suns debacle with Chris Paul. Let's go and deal with Kevin Durant. We know I'm bringing it, and then people are talking about Durant had to step up with Kyrie Irving out. Harden did show up, make an appearance in this game, played 48 minutes, scored only 5 points. But you think with Harden being back in the game kind of helped Durant go off on his tangent that he did against the Milwaukee Bucks back in Brooklyn?
I wouldn't say it helped. I would say that it relieved a lot of pressure. I would say that. I think regardless of the situation, Kevin Durant is going to be Kevin Durant. He's going to put up points because he's just a fierce competitor. And, he has excelled at the highest level in this game. And, a lot of people have made the argument that he's the best player in the game today. That's an argument for a different day, of course. But it was an unforgivable performance by Kevin Durant. And I think he was just, I think he was just engaged last night. And, he just wanted to will his team to victory. And he did just that. And we all seen this before from Kevin Durant. I mean, this is not the first time we've seen this movie. We've seen it over and over and over again. The guy's carried teams everywhere he's been. In OKC, he carried OKC. He carried a heavy load in Golden State. That's not to take anything away from Klay Thompson or Steph Curry, because, yes, they were there to contribute as well. But remember the night that Curry and Thompson both had pedestrian performances? Who was there to carry that heavy load? And he carried that heavy offensive burden on his shoulder. That was Kevin Durant. So Kevin Durant, this is not the first time he's been thrust in a situation where he has to perform at such a high level. I mean, we already know what we're going to get from Kevin Durant. The question is, what are we going to get from an ailing James Harden, and what are we going to get if Kyrie Irving is able to come back or not? Those are the questions right now. But Kevin Durant was just phenomenal last night, and I wouldn't be surprised if he blows up like that again in a critical game.
Yeah, and let's look at Durant's stats here for this. He played 48 minutes. He's 16 for 23 from field goal range, 4 for 9 from 3-point range, 13 for 16 from the foul line. He had 17 rebounds. He had 10 assists. He had a triple-double. He had 3 blocks, 2 blocks and 3 steals, and he had 3 turnovers, but he scored 49 points. And then you had Jeff Green, who came out of nowhere in this game, who played 35, 8, and 11, 7 for 8, 4 and 4 from the foul line. He had 27 points coming off the bench. So, and then you got Blake Griffin, who stepped up his game a little bit with 17 points. But then Harding, if you're talking about Harding, he had 5 points, but he did play with some significant minutes. He played 46 minutes. He had 6 defensive rebounds. He had 6 rebounds and 8 assists. So, he did produce in his category of assists, getting the playmaking into it. But Durant, what you're saying, he was phenomenal. Durant was awesome. And to me, he played a game that we thought LeBron would have had done with the Lakers if he could have done it. But Durant showed that tonight that he's up to that billing. And I think that night right there, he overstepped LeBron James and his performance in the playoffs. I mean, it's just tremendous. I mean, he took the team on his back. LeBron, he's getting older. We didn't see him take the Lakers like this on his back. He had to have a facilitator or somebody to come along with him. But Kevin Durant really, he had 49 points. I mean, he had Kevin Green with 27, and then Blake Griffin with 17. That was the only three people in double figures in this ball game. So if we're looking at the Milwaukee Bucks, what does the Bucks have to do to counteract what Durant did in Brooklyn when they go back to Milwaukee?
Giannis cannot turn over the ball in the final minutes of the game. I mean, that was just terrible. Turning over the ball in a big moment like that, Giannis is going to have to really carry the load for this team the way Durant has for, the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, I hate to say this, but Giannis is going to have to be the facilitator. He's got to be the scorer, and he's going to have to be the aggressor. He's going to have to be all three in the upcoming game. But a lot of the blame falls on Mike Budenholzer. I mean, this guy, to me, if the series if the series ends and the Bucks don't advance this time, which they probably want, sadly, I think he will get fired. I think his days are numbered as the head coach of the Brooklyn. The Milwaukee Bucks. I think his days are really numbered there. Look, man, this guy should have double teamed. Kevin Durant. He should have, employed the double team. Why aren't you? This guy is killing your team. I mean, he is literally out there torching your team, and you have not decided to go with the double team. I feel like Budenholzer also settles on his bench too much. He relies on those guys too much, and you know what, Ray? They're just not getting it done. I think a lot of criticism, falls in his lap. I think he's out the door, man. I think once the series is over, I just don't see the Bucks winning it because it's gonna be the same thing like it was in the last game. And you got all these guys, you got Chris Middleton, you got PJ Tucker, who's a veteran, been around a long time, have that playoff experience. But these guys are not enough. I feel like it's something missing. You got Drew Holiday too, who's a great defender, right? But I just feel like there's something missing. And one thing that's missing is a great coach. They're missing a great coach. They need a coach, an actual coach. And I mean, that's not to take anything away from Budenholzer. I just don't think he's the right guy for them.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it, Brooklyn had three people in double figures. If you look at Milwaukee's score, box score, they had five people in double figures. They had Giannis with 34. They had Middleton with 25. They had Brook Lopez, who finally scored in double figures in this series with 15 points. Drew Holiday had 19 points. And then Connaughton came off the bench with 10. They had five people in double figure. You figured that if you looked at the Brooklyn score, box score, and compared to this Bucks box score, if you didn't see the score, you thought the Bucks would have won this game. But no, Durant came through and he did everything. He was Mr. Reliable. I mean, Giannis game, he had 12 rebounds and he had 4 assists, but that triple double by Durant, and then the key turnovers by Giannis, who had 4 turnovers in this ball game, who actually fouled out with his 6 fouls in the last few seconds of the game. So if you look at it this way, now when you go back to Milwaukee, do you think the Bucks will come back alive again like they did before? Or will they just, be flat out and then Brooklyn close out that series in game 6?
I think the way Kevin Durant's playing right now, I think they close out that series. I think Brooklyn just has too much firepower. They're the better team. I think with KD's experience, having been there before, I think he knows how to finish and close out games. And I know they say closing out the series, elimination game is the hardest one to get. but I just think Brooklyn will close it out, and I think they'll shut the door on the Milwaukee Bucks season.
Yeah, if you look at it this way, I mean, to me, I think Brooklyn needs to go ahead and close it out.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give a few extra rest for Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. Get them back on the top level of get ready for that Eastern Conference Finals, because they're gonna probably need it if the 76ers do close out Atlanta Hawks within the next 2 games. So I mean, it's going to be a tough series for whoever goes up against the 76ers, and Embiid is going to be that focal point again, and Durant's going to be that focal point for Brooklyn. So, and you don't want to misguide it with the Hawks, because the Hawks can sneak up and close out that series in 7 games too, or go back to Atlanta, win Game 6, and come back for Game 7. So that's the key we're watching out. But I want to turn my attention here to the key injury, the key health protocol. They say COVID-19. Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns. Now, I have seen the reports. You got the COVID-19 is now 10 days instead of 14 days of isolating yourself. If he did get vaccinated, then it goes to 7 days. So we're at 2 games apiece. We got Game 5 coming up with the Utah Jazz. Now the Phoenix hoping that the Utah Jazz series will go 7 games. That will give Chris Paul some time to get back into this lineup, going into the Western Conference Finals. So if Chris Paul cannot make it back until the 3rd game, what do you see what Phoenix needs to do in the first 2 games if Chris Paul misses the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals?
Well, they're going to have to rely on Devin Booker and other guys to step it up. I mean, what else can you do in the absence of Chris Paul? I mean, there's really nothing else you could do. You have to rely on Mikal Bridges to keep making shots. You have to hope that Cameron Payne stays as hot as he's been. You have to hope that Devin Booker carries his team on his back. I know he's a young guy. I know he doesn't have much playoff experience, but he's going to have to be that superstar player that stepped it up and anchor this offense. And I think he's capable of doing that. But you talk about Chris Paul, man, this is a huge blow to this team. I mean, it's a significant blow because you lose a floor general. You lose a guy who's teaching these young players. These young players out there on this Phoenix team are students of the game, and they're learning from Chris Paul. So, I mean, to not have his presence there, I mean, that takes a lot out of a team, and I don't want to say that it's going to be a momentum crusher, because I don't think it will be, but I do think it will have an effect on the team, because look, this guy has been given a lot of credit for this team's success this season, and I mean, he has come in and he has made a major impact on this Phoenix team, and it's been showing up in the wins column. You saw what they did to the Lakers. You saw how Chris Paul ended that series, and you saw what he did in the next series. I'm going blank on the team that they played in that second round.
You're talking about Denver.
Yes, he had a masterful performance in that game, that final game. That Game 4 in which they completed the sweep of the Denver Nuggets. I mean, Chris Paul went off in that game. He looked like the Chris Paul of old. I mean, he looked like an ageless wonder out there. He definitely didn't look like 36. And in that game, he had 37 points. He was 1 point higher than his age, 36 years old. And he's just looked remarkable for this team. So, yes, they're definitely going to miss him, but they're going to need someone to fill that void. And I think it's going to have to be Devin Booker.
Yeah. And, I feel sorry for Chris Paul. I mean, you had injuries to help him out with some of the playoffs, and then now you got the COVID-19 virus. He had a shoulder injury in the first series against the Lakers. Yeah. I mean, everything's done happened to Chris Paul, and, you kind of feel sorry for the guy. He was making get back into the Western Conference Final, trying to make his first NBA final. So, you got to keep an eye out on that situation and how far the Utah Jazz has to push their series to. Phoenix probably hoping to go 7 games, so it gives them, a few more extra days to get that, protocol in, and he has to retest again to make sure he doesn't have it before we get in back in on the court, and then we got to see what the rest of the protocol is. While we still in the NBA, how about the NBA announced the Kia Rookie of the Year and went to Hornets, LaMelo Ball. So how do you feel about the Rookie of the Year? Did they get the Rookie of the Year right?
It was a no-brainer. I mean, who else was out there to challenge LaMelo Ball? I mean, name a rookie out there that came close to having the type of year that he had. I know he got injured. I know he didn't play a complete season, but still, the award, was given to him because of how remarkable he was at the start of the season. He came in and he made a tremendous impact on that Charlotte Hornets team. I mean, he made that team relevant. Let's be honest. He made the Charlotte Hornets relevant because there was times in recent years that I forgot that team was even still in the NBA, that team existed. But once LaMelo Ball landed with the team and once he got going with the team, I realized that there was a team called the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA. And I mean, congratulations to him. He's well deserving of the award, and I mean, I just wonder how he's going to handle it next year with the heavier expectations that he will have placed upon him after having such an incredible season in his rookie year. He was just amazing. And I will say this too, Ray. He's the best out of all the Ball brothers. Okay, let's stop putting hype on the other two, Lonzo Ball and LaMelo and LiAngelo Ball, and let's give all the praise in the world to LaMelo because he is the best out of them all, and I think he's gonna have tremendous success in this league, and I think he's gonna raise the bar, and he's definitely gonna one day as he continues to develop in the NBA. He's going to help this Charlotte Hornets team get to the playoffs.
Yeah. See, I'm a longtime Hornets fan, so I knew the Hornets were still available in the NBA. I mean, but I had my doubts when he drafted him because of his size stature. His build. He's still 19 years old. His body frame doesn't really fit his weight and stuff. That really doesn't fill his body frame out. And then once a few games got involved and a few months got involved, and as he kept playing, he went to the basket and get hit, and then still playing, and the fantastic passes he's done. He really made the other players better on the Hornets, and it made the Hornets a real contender. And it needs a few more players around, but I think his second year, I think he's got a good owner in Michael Jordan who can actually help him progress how to take a stardom, to a new level. And then keeping his father out of the news and keeping him out of the arena in Charlotte really, under control really helped out LaMelo because when Lonzo came in, it was all about, his father and him. And, but when he came in, it wasn't about his father. It was about him and the way he handled himself. And I like his attitude. He said he wants to stay in Charlotte. He wants to make Charlotte a contender. And, the only pressure with Charlotte has is, they consider the small market team. They're not like New York. They're not like LA. They can't afford, having a super three. But you got to have players that want to come to play in Charlotte. And you got to have the fans. And then, to me, I think the fans are starting to come back into the ram of things by him being there and selling out the place. And it feels like back in 1988 when he first came in, when the Charlotte Coliseum was sold out of every game. So to me, I think this is a good start for LaMelo Ball and the Hornets getting a Rookie of the Year. I didn't think they made a mistake, even though he had that injury, was out for a while, but I think he made his record before that injury. I think he just pushed the ball. He pushed the envelope to the max, and he showed why the Hornets needed it. And the Hornets did actually surprise my expectation and surprise everybody else's expectation because they were finished to finish, dead last in the Eastern Conference. They did get into the playoff in the play-in game and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's the right step to go. They just need a few more players, and Miles Bridges, he's stepping up his game too. So, I like to see that. But then, we got the good awards here. We got to do some bad stuff here. The Mavericks has part ways with long-term GM Nelson. What do you think about the Mavs, and who you think their next GM could be?
Well, it's interesting. The Mavs are cleaning out their front office. Um, you know, who's out there that's available for hire? It's hard to tell at this point who can be their next GM. Um, but I know Mark Cuban is searching. I know they're gonna look, but you know what? What's interesting to me, Ray? If they do, whoever their next GM might be, okay, whoever their next GM might be, does this mean this is the end of Rick Carlisle? Because sometimes when GMs come in, they don't want to inherit a guy. They want to bring in their own, head coach and their own coaching staff and everything. So, I mean, that's what's more interesting to me. But, it's a number of people who could get front office roles. Everyone's talking about Chauncey Billups being a head coach. Hey, maybe he goes into the front office. I mean, you never know. I mean, there's a number of names out there that might be interested in taking on that front office role, But I mean, I really like Chauncey Billups as both a head coach and as a head coach and a general manager. I just think he has a great understanding, a keen understanding for the game of basketball, and I think he'll be excellent in either role.
Yeah. How about a scenario I'll throw out here real quick? How about Carlisle moving up to the front office and bringing in Mark Jackson as the head coach?
Yeah, hey, you know what? I like that. I think Mark Cuban would take his chances. I think Mark Cuban and Rick Carlisle would take their chances on Mark Jackson. A lot of people was telling me that Mark Jackson won't ever be a head coach in this league again. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's preposterous. I think he deserves another chance. Why? Because he's a religious guy that he doesn't belong in the locker room as a head coach. That's ridiculous. Get out of here. There's a lot of religious guys out there. That shouldn't stop him from being a head coach. That shouldn't discriminate him and keep him out of a locker room. That's crazy to me. The guy has great charisma. The guy, it has a great perspective on the game of basketball, and I think he'll be, I think he's well deserving of another coaching opportunity in the NBA. I don't think he was given a fair chance in Golden State. So yes, I can see Rick Carlisle, since Mark Cuban has developed a great relationship with Rick Carlisle, since he seems to have a lot of loyalty for him and seem to have a lot of respect for him and wants him around that organization. I could see Rick Carlisle getting promoted to the general manager position and them taking a chance on a guy like Mark Cuban on a guy like Mark Jackson to come in and be their head coach.
Yeah. And then as we keep on going by the people getting fired, how about the Pelicans firing Van Gundy after one season? What's your thing on that, and who you think could be the next head coach in New Orleans?
Well, honestly, I didn't see that coming. I really didn't see it coming. Now, I understand that New Orleans finished a disappointing 31-41 this past season, and they fell short of the play-in tournament. I get it. I mean, it was a year, a terrible year for that team, and Stan Van Gundy didn't meet the organization's expectations. It just didn't work out for him, unfortunately. I think he was deserving of maybe another year to, because those guys are young and they're still growing as a team. It takes a little time when you got young guys like Zion Williamson. You got young guys on that team. Brandon Ingram, I know Brandon Ingram's been around a little bit longer than a lot of those guys over there, but still, I mean, Stan Van Gundy had an excellent track record when he was in Orlando, and unfortunately it came to an abrupt end for him there, because of one guy who had this, you know, bloated ego, which was Dwight Howard, that I think, kind of ran him out of, you know, that city. But yeah, it was a bit surprising to me, just like it was when a lot of people said that the hiring was a bit of a surprise. Um, now they will go on this coaching search looking for another coach, who can relate to these young players, Um, who can relate to these young players is the question. I don't think whoever they bring in, it will work, for New Orleans. I really don't know who that next guy might be or who the candidates can be, for the New Orleans Pelicans. But now they will go on this coaching search, look for a new guy to take over, and maybe you go with a guy like Jason Kidd. I know he's a leading candidate. He wants another shot at coaching. He'll leave the Lakers bench as an assistant coach and take on that role. He's a guy who can kind of relate to those young players and maybe, change the culture there with his winning attitude. So maybe they'll go out and get a guy like Jason Kidd.
Yeah, and then we're going to continue on. The last NBA coach who agreed to part ways, started getting fired, was Brooks, the Washington Wizards head coach. He agreed to part ways. To me, I think this will be a good fit for Chauncey Phillips to take over the team as a head coach. To me, I think this is a perfect situation for him. He has Westbrook, and he has build there to build around his philosophy around. But they do need a big guy. They need some help here. So what's your take on Brooks Green to part ways? Was he going to get fired anyway if he didn't part ways with the team and went on out on his own terms?
You know what? He probably felt it was coming, so he probably felt it was probably best to just part ways before the firing came down. Maybe he sensed something, and so he just said, you know what, I just decided to part ways and I'll move on, So, but for me, I think Sam Cassell is a good name. Cassell is currently an assistant coach for the Sixers, and he has interviewed for several head coaching jobs in the past. And Cassell was a Wizards assistant coach, and he has a great relationship with Bradley Beal. He's very close to Bradley Beal, and so I like Sam Cassell. I just think he's that perfect fit for them.
Yeah. We're going to move away from the NBA. We talked, over half the show about the NBA. I want to get into some football news here. I want to get in some here. Coming out of here, I'm in Jacksonville. Coming out of here, they haven't announced the starting quarterback yet. It's by that time, you want to know who is going to be the starting quarterback. Do you think the Jaguars are keeping the starting quarterback under wraps, or do we all know it's going to be Trevor Lawrence at the beginning of the season?
I mean, you drafted Trevor Lawrence as your number one pick, right? So why wouldn't it be Trevor Lawrence? I think Urban Meyer knows, but Urban Meyer is a guy who doesn't like distractions around his organization. So maybe this is him just staying, quiet and not, revealing too much information to the media. And we will know who his starter is, come week one, But trust me, Urban Meyer knows who he's starting at quarterback. He may not tell us, but he knows.
Yeah. I want to stay in a little bit of football, but I want to go off the field for football. Greg Olsen, his son, TJ Olsen, he had a heart transplant. And I don't know if you knew anything about the story about Greg Olsen's kids or anything, but I just want to go ahead and bring this out. TJ left he had a heart transplant. He promised his mom and dad that he was going to ring the bell. He rung the bell today. Leaving the Charlotte hospital. You got to feel, proud for Greg Olsen, the way he played football to go and have his personal life on the beat with his son, with his heart condition and stuff like that, and being a productive tight end, So I don't know if you knew anything about this story or not, but you got to understand the perspective of it. It's not a football, it's not a sports related story. It's just a parent story, it's a humane story, and I think it's great to come out with it a little bit here and talk about it. How Olsen had to go and compete on the field and compete off the field. So, what do you think about Greg Olsen's career, and do you think he has a Hall of Fame numbers? And talking about his family issue outside the football field with the football field.
No, I didn't know that story. I didn't know he was personally going through that with his son. But now that you brought it up, it's a touching story. It's very moving, and as a parent, you know, you realize that you have a greater responsibility away from your occupation, and that is to be a dad first, or if you're a lady, that's to be a mother first. Your kids come first, and family is over everything. So to see that he was balancing football and being able to stay on the field and then come off the field and have to uh, be there for his son who's dealing with this serious medical issue. It says a lot about his character and the person that he is. So I mean, that's right there. That no story is better than that one. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's been able to uh what he's been able to do away from the game, and how he's been able to handle that situation. And you wouldn't think anything of it, because this is a guy who's competing week in and week out on the field, and you don't know what's going on in his personal life unless he shares it with you. So I think that's just um that's just amazing to me. I mean, and it's an emotional story as well. But much respect to him. A lot of appreciation to him for being the dad that he is. And do I think he's a Hall of Famer? Yes, he has the numbers of a tight end. I think he was definitely one guy who stood out. You know, I think he had a phenomenal career as a tight end, and I think he's worthy of the Hall of Fame. I think he definitely has the numbers to, uh, you know, make it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I see the Bears has prepared to sign. Robinson's prepared to play 1 year on a 1 year deal. Um, Speak volumes for Robinson to be out there to be the number one wide receiver for the Chicago Bears with Justin Fields. And let's talk about the three quarterbacks that were drafted in the upper half of the first round. Actually, four quarterbacks. Which out of the four quarterbacks you think is going to have the better rookie campaign?
Oh, that's a tough one. You put me on the spot there. Um, I'm gonna say Trey Lance, and here's why. He's going to a 49er team where they have a great coaching staff, right? They have a great general manager and a great coaching staff. Kyle Shanahan has a reputation for developing quarterbacks. We've seen it before. He has helped with the development of quarterbacks in the past. He has done a good job grooming quarterbacks. And I think he can, I think Trey Lance can come in and making an immediate impact on the 49ers because of who his coach is. And I think, you know, this season is going to be a great season for him, only because Kyle Shanahan is there to assist and to make sure that he's in a good position to succeed.
You think he's going to be the number one start? You think he's going to be the starting quarterback day one?
I think there's a possibility he can, yes.
All right, and let's talk about Justin Fields. After Robinson signed a 1 year going to play on a 1 year deal, what do you think Robinson brings to the table for Justin Fields and leadership wise for the Chicago Bears?
Oh, I think that's huge. That's a plus for a young guy like Justin Fields. He brings great leadership. I mean, he can also, help with his development as well. And I think, Justin Fields, a guy like Justin Fields could learn a lot from Robinson. So I think this is a good move for the Chicago Bears, and I think this was a move to also help with Justin Fields' growth and development.
And then you got Wilson for the Jets. What do you think is he gonna turn around the Jets? Is it gonna take a couple years for the Jets to be turned around under his leadership? Or do you think he's a bust?
Not to take anything away from Zach Wilson, I do think he's a borderline bust. And the reason I say that is because what have the Jets done to really address their needs at the offensive line? I mean, I know they've gotten a little better. They tweaked a few things, but still it's gonna be challenging for this young kid. I wish him the best of luck. But I think the Jets are gonna be who the Jets have always been.
And then let's look at Daniel Jones. He's the quarterback for the Giants. Freddie Henderson's, his football team, one of his football teams. And we got the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. We're gonna come up and talk about him in a minute. But let's talk about Daniel. Let's talk about two left foot Daniel Jones that played at Duke University, who took off 99 yards and tripped over his own 2 feet before trying to get to the end zone. So, he tackled his own self. So, what do you think? You think this is Jones's last year right here, or you think that he's going to improve off his last year's season?
Honestly, I think there's room for improvement in Daniel Jones's game. I think I think this offense is predicated on the run game, right? The guy who runs that offense is Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley can alleviate a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones and kind of make Daniel Jones look good, kind of help him stand out there a little bit. There's a great chance that he will stay there more than a season or so. I think Daniel Jones has kind of unlocked his potential. I don't want to say he has fully unlocked his potential, but there's something that the Giants like in this guy. But I think if we all see it, right? If a player doesn't play up to his standards or the team standards, you're out of there. Especially in New York, those fans will run him out of town very quick if he underperforms. So, maybe another season or two for Daniel Jones, and if he doesn't get his act together, you can rest assured that he will be out.
Now, there were some pictures floating around on the internet. I don't know if you've seen about Aaron Rodgers, who said that he's offended by the offseason shirt that he had a picture of Tom Brady on an interview that he wore to an interview and stuff like that. We know Aaron Rodgers is a good, he knows the sarcasm's around and the ability that he's supposed to play for Green Bay and what is going on through the Green Bay system and stuff like that. Do you see Aaron Rodgers playing for Green Bay this season?
Yes, I do see him playing for Green Bay this season. Remember, he's still under contract. So the Green Bay Packers have all the leverage right now. He can't really control where he goes. But we have seen professional athletes, Ray, assume so much power that their wishes were granted and that they got traded out of town to another city. I mean, so it's possible, but I think he's going to be in a Green Bay uniform next season. But the question is, how happy is he going to be? The guy is disgruntled. And so he's not, if you do keep him, he's not going to give you 100% effort. He's not going to give you his best effort. He's going to most likely perform poorly because he's made it real clear that he wants out, that he is no longer satisfied playing for the Green Bay Packers. He feels like the organization has stabbed him in the back. He feels betrayed by the organization. He feels, that the organization never had his back and that the organization didn't do enough to keep him happy. So now that he's unhappy, he wants out. So I don't know how much longer the Packers can hold on to him, but I do think they will make it miserable for him this upcoming season.
Yeah, now let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders here and talk about quarterback Derek Carr and the situation. And he came out and said he has no desire to leave the team. I didn't know he was thinking about leaving the team. They had all those kind of reports coming out. Now, if we were looking at the Las Vegas Raiders, we know the GM is used to be NFL analyst Mayock, and then we have the John Gruden, who used to be the color analyst of NBA, the NFL Monday Night Football on ESPN, but was the Raiders' former coach when he was out in Oakland, and then Tampa Bay's coach. Now, do you see Gruden being let go before his 10-year contract being run out? And then which one you see going first, Gruden or Mayock, the GM?
Gruden had success in the past with the Raiders. He's been there. He's been a part of this organization. They brought him in on a 10-year contract, which I thought was utterly ridiculous. And and personally, if I was John Gruden, I would have stayed in the broadcasting booth at ESPN. As much as money as they was paying me to evaluate quarterbacks and analyze the game of football, I would have stayed where I was at. There's no way I'm coming out of the broadcast booth to come back to the sideline and coach football again. Just no way. But if you're asking the question, which one do I see go first? I would have to say John Gruden. Because look, the Raiders have looked like a train wreck since he's gotten there. This is a guy who relies too much on veteran quarterbacks. He's made some boneheaded decisions already. They made some ridiculous trades. It's just not panning out for John Gruden in Oakland, in Vegas now. But I think when it's all said and done, he'll be the first one to go.
Yeah, I think Mayock might be gone because his evaluating the talent supposed to be top notch the way he describes them on the NFL draft and stuff, all these notebooks and stuff like that. But I think he might be gone. Gruden could be following right out the footsteps with him. They both could be gone about the same time if they don't perform. If they don't perform this season.
If the current general manager is gone before him, then Gruden's gone too.
Yeah, and then let's talk about the NFL and the NFL Player Association agreeing updated COVID protocols for the training camp and preseason. Where they say mandatory minicamp comes to close around the NFL league. The NFL Player Association have to come to an agreement for the COVID-19 protocols for training camp, preseason games, and NFL Network. Went on and said that the protocols is how different from preseason will be for the players and individuals who are vaccinated, who are not fully vaccinated. So, to me, you think the NFL is going to push for a mandate that everybody get vaccinated, or is it just going to be up to the individual if they want to get vaccinated?
Personally, it should be up to the individual if they want to get vaccinated. You can't force a person to get vaccinated if they don't want to get vaccinated, because not everyone believes in the vaccines, right?
Right.
Personally, for me and my family, we believe in vaccines. So everyone's gotten vaccinated. But I don't think you should make it to where every NFL player has to get vaccinated. Who are you to say that this player needs a vaccine? It should be a personal decision, one that's made based on what that person believes in. And I don't see how you could do that. Make everyone get the vaccine. Yes, you can stay safe as possible by, implementing other safety protocols like wearing a mask maybe, or social distancing, practicing social distancing, that kind of thing. But you can't make someone get a vaccine if they don't feel comfortable doing so. I think that's crazy.
Now, do you agree with the NFL came out and said that they're going full capacity?
Yes, I think we have slowly, gotten back to normal to where we can now allow fans to come back at a full capacity. I think it's great. Here in Los Angeles last night, you saw a full capacity at Dodger Stadium, and it was awesome. The fans were there. It was so lively out there. It was buzzing out there. The atmosphere was great. Everyone screamed, from the top of their lungs when Mookie Betts hit the home run. It just felt like old times again. So I think it's time to allow fans to come back at a full capacity. And it's great. It's always great having fans at sporting events because not only does it energize your team, but it energizes the player. Yeah, it energizes the players as well, and it makes for the excitement.
Yeah, I can agree. Jacksonville, we done had like 3 or 4 sellout concerts. We full gone back into concerts here. We're going back into full minor league games will be starting back up full capacity for them. We have full capacity for the Daly's Place and AEW this past Friday night. So I mean, I think we are slowly getting back to where we need to be. Wise to getting everybody back in the stands and stuff like that, and this pandemic behind us, and getting back into where we, go back and have a good time in our regular old daily lives and getting back into, sports. To me, I seen a report here by Drew Brees saying that Justin Herbert, his physical tools are as good as anybody I've ever seen. Do you agree with that assessment by Drew Brees?
Drew Brees knows quarterbacks because he played that position. So he can evaluate quarterbacks and critique them in a way that probably other people can't. So yes, I do agree because look, Justin Herbert has, come to LA and, he has caught on really quick. This is a guy who has learned a new playbook. He's learned a new system and, he's come in and he's taken the NFL by surprise. I think, the Los Angeles Chargers really, really have a good quarterback. They have a franchise quarterback in the making. They have one that can be here for many, many years to come. And I mean, look, the guy has great accuracy. He has the arm strength. He has the ability to survey the field, and he comes with the complete package. And I mean, this is a guy who came in and learned really quick, learned on the fly, really, and he did it in such a way that it has changed the culture in Los Angeles, and now they have become a winning team. I'm just not too sure how many tickets they're going to sell out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, true. I mean, are the new stadium should be opening up soon, right? The new stadium they're playing in.
Yeah, they share with the Rams.
Yeah,
It's open. It opened last season, but it was just no fans.
right. So I mean, you get that new stadium, sharing. That's another thing too. I really don't like. I'm gonna get your opinion on it. I really don't like other teams sharing other stadiums. I mean, we've seen it so long for the New York Jets and the New York Giants. I mean, it seems ridiculous. You in MetLife Stadium, one day you see it all Giants color, next thing you know, you see it all Jets colors. They play in the same building and stuff like that. I know it's a big market team. The Giants don't even play in New York. They play in New Jersey. They should be just a New Jersey, team, instead of just New York. I mean, the offices are in New York, but they play in New Jersey, in the Meadowlands area. So now you got the Chargers and the Rams sharing the stadium. How do you feel about NFL teams sharing stadiums?
Well, just like you have the Lakers and the Clippers sharing stadiums. I mean, it's been going on out here for so many years because you got to think LA has 2 teams of each. I know the Dodgers play in Dodger Stadium and the Angels play in Angel Stadium, which is across town because one is in Anaheim and the other is near downtown LA.
Right.
But you know what? It's strange to see 2 teams share the same stadium. I mean, do fans really care? No, because as long as their team is playing on the home floor or the home turf, it really doesn't matter. What they care about is their team getting a win. What they care about is their team, being productive. And what they care about is going to the games and being able to be entertained. That's what they care about. So I don't think the fans really pay too much attention to it. Even though there are a few fans out there that say, well, they need their own stadium, they need their own building, and maybe they do. But that goes on taxpayers' dollars if you have two stadiums in the same city. And so a lot of cities feel that one stadium's enough, and if they have two teams, they just have to share the stadium. And there's always going to be the bigger brother and the little brother. Out here, the Clippers are the little brother, the Lakers are the bigger brother. So, to most people, the Clippers have to pay their rent to their landlords, who are the Lakers. And that's the same with the Rams now. The Rams, the Chargers have to pay the landlords, which are the Rams. They have to pay them rent once a month. And if you do recall, the two teams did bump heads when the stadium was being built. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
It was a dispute between the two teams about the stadium and everything. So, I mean, it is what it is. They sharing the stadium. And to be honest with you, the Chargers shouldn't be out here to begin with. They should have stayed in San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego wasn't building the stadium. That's the problem.
Right.
And then close out this show today. We're getting ready to close out this show. I want to go ahead and see where you stand at in Major League Baseball in the National League West. You have the Giants in first place. You have the Dodgers in second, and then you have the Padres. Which team going in October? Which team are going to be winning in a regular season, the end of September, really? Who's going to win the National League West?
Well, the Giants are off to a hot start, right? I don't think that's sustainable, though. The Padres, they are struggling to put the ball in play and get some collective hits. So it's been challenging for them. I think by the time it's all said and done, because you're starting to see the Dodgers heat up, and this is not me showing bias. This is not me sounding off my bias. This is me just being real. I think by the time it's all said and done, the Dodgers will win the division once again. I think they're going to end up running away with it at some point, probably in sometime in maybe mid-July or something like that. They'll start just taking off with this division, because I don't see the Giants holding it together. I just don't see that happening. The Giants, yes, they got off to a nice start. They impressed a lot of people. They surprised a lot of people. But is it really sustainable? No, I don't think so. The Padres, they have great pitching. Their starting pitching has been good. Yu Darvish, Blake Snell. But the problem is that they're not hitting. Where has Manny Machado gone? Where has Fernando Tatis Jr. gone? These guys have suddenly disappeared. So I think, a lot of people are surprised that the Padres are struggling. But I think the Dodgers will end up running away with it.
You think the Dodgers are going to repeat
as champions? Now, that might be a different story. If the Braves get their act together, because the Braves are under 500, which is a surprise to a lot of people. I mean, they're too good to be under 500. I think at some point they will break out of this slump and be a more dominant team down the stretch. I think if there's one team that could give the Dodgers hell if they get their act together, it could be the Braves.
Yeah, I'm a Braves fan, so let me attach this a little bit.
They should not be under 500, but they're too good. They're going to eventually find themselves at some point.
The problem with the Braves is their bullpen and their starting pitchers. Yes. I mean, their bullpen starting pitchers got injured. They had some good starters got injured right off the bat. They got Snorka supposed to come back in July. They supposed to add another starter supposed to be coming back off an injury here in mid-July. So the Braves are playing right now with fire, in their division. They're third place in their division. They're under 500. They're winning tonight. They were winning tonight 7-6 over the Red Sox. They lost last night 10-8. And the Red Sox beat them. So they're battling right now. They've been in games, but they lost games because of the bullpens, lost in games. Acuna got hurt a couple times, but he's been off the chart. Freeman hasn't gotten going really. He's been sporadic all season long. I think missing the spring training and all that stuff kind of got him off a little bit of a snag because of having his kid this year and stuff like that. So Freeman's been off, not as doing his MVP like he was last year stats. And then they got that on Azuna is another guy that, he found himself beating his wife up and got arrested and got injured. So he went on the DL. He hasn't been heard from since because of the arrest of the beating his wife and stuff like that. So, that's what's going on with the Braves right now. I do see the Braves usually start picking up right after the All-Star break, if they don't get too far behind. But the Mets right now have been playing hot. So, I mean, they're chasing down the Mets. You're chasing down the Phillies. So, as long as we don't play San Diego is the only team that's undefeated against the Braves at 6-0. So, we lost everything against San Diego. So, as long as we don't see San Diego, we'll be good right now.
I mean, you got to remember, too, my friend, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Baseball's a long season, 162-game season.
I look at it this way. When baseball, it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. But also, you got to hit the right time. You got to get the momentum going. If you don't get the momentum going, then it's kind of hard to sustain a winning streak. So they've been sporadic and stuff like that. Boston's surprised me this year with their going into the when Alex Cora came back. That's the heartbeat. Last year they were down. They were really down. But Alex Cora wasn't being the manager, and Alex Cora come back now, and the Red Sox is in second place against Tampa. The Yankees really fall off the a little bit of they were picked to win their AL East. So I mean, if you look at it this way, baseball season's coming. It's coming almost to the All-Star break. So we got you got the Dodgers, you got the National League West is heating up. The National League East is heating up. The American League is only it will probably be a two-man race if Toronto don't get in there or New York don't get in there. That could be a two-man race. So I mean, if you look at everything else in baseball, you're seeing the Braves being down. Mets are being surprise team. I think the Mets was underrated when they came into the season. So we're seeing that. So what is your last take here before we get off tonight?
It's finally cooling down a little bit in Southern California. I mean, it's been hot. It's been humid here, and we're finally getting some relief, a little bit. But you know what, Ray? The heat doesn't really bother me too much. I really like the heat. I prefer summer over winter because I don't deal with the cold too well. And I know we don't really experience what you guys experience on the East Coast when it comes to cold temperatures, because you guys get the bone chilling type of cold. We get cold and we complain still because that's the cold climate we're used to. I mean, so, but it's nice out here. I'm sitting on my patio, and I just want to say, man, it was a blast doing this show with you again. Keep doing your thing, and if you ever need a co-host on your own show or anything, you know where to find me. Yeah.
So I mean, I do this, and I do a internet radio type show at 6:00 in the morning on Saturday. So I mean, sometimes if you want to, that'd be about 6:00 in the morning. It'd be about 3:00 your time.
Hey, sometimes I'm up around that time.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we're looking at it. You got the cool. We can see your nice background, your scenery back there with your pine trees and stuff like that. Talking about it cool over here on the East Coast. The Midwest gets colder than the East Coast, really. So Denver and all them with the big snow areas. Florida, up where I'm at, it doesn't get cold until about end of December towards the middle of January, and then it gets spring right back up. So we really don't have all 4 seasons here as most people do in the East Coast.
Same
so here. If you want to, you want to catch Just Say the Truth on Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Central Time. Freddie should be back on Friday. If not, you might see my ugly face on it again. But still, if Freddie comes back, if you all missed the Laker talks today, Freddie will bring that back on Friday.
Oh,
so
Lord.
It's Just Say the Truth from Jonathan Mathis to Ray Cruz. We're signing off. Good night. Peace out. Enjoy.